Alvin,
Yes.
we stand in the ship's hold. It's dark and you have a feeling of being on a ship. The idea here is to show how important tobacco was to the beginnings of Virginia history. And these large barrels are hogsheads. They would have weighed about 1,000 pounds apiece. And they would have been prized, stuffed in there, then shipped to England. And here, I just want you to know, who do you think did this work?
Probably indentured laborers.
That's really good, Alvin. In the very early days, white indentured servants did most of the work. And eventually, what Winthrop Jordan calls the unthinking decision occurs. And that's when indentured servants begin to be replaced by black enslaved people. And this happens slowly, but by the end of the century, by 1680, the predominant workforce here are people from Africa. In fact, here, in what we now call Hampton, the first Africans would arrive here in 1619 aboard a ship, the White Lion. And that ship, what are you doing? The White Lion, and we're not sure if these people were enslaved or if they were indentured, but they do arrive here and then go up to Jamestown. So this is the best documented arrival of Africans to these shores. Now I can tell you there were others earlier, but this is certainly the one that people generally refer to, and it's very important.
Right.
Now the essence of this gallery is this. We talk about how tobacco was cultivated, how tobacco was moved, and who did it. Also, we focus upon the planters. The planters' self-worth was sort of measured by the quality of their tobacco. So tobacco was everything in this world in early 17th century Virginia. It was boarded, taken to Hampton, put on ships, because Hampton was a thriving port. Ships from all over the world were here. It was loaded up, and then it was sailed across the Atlantic. And this area over here symbolizes the Atlantic. You go across,
Right.
and now you're in England. As a young man in Virginia, you would want clothes, you'd want maybe a hat, you'd want a gun and tools. And so what you would do, your tobacco would be used as currency, and you could buy cloth, you could buy wine, you could buy weapons, you could buy tools. And these artifacts symbolize the types of things that the English settlement used, and almost everything you see here was excavated here in Hampton, because Hampton is one of the best documented urban archaeological sites in America.
You see I see there's Chinaware and pottery. So
It was export from China, and China was the great ceramic of the time. Everything else imitated it.
Mm-hmm.
Delft was imitation of Chinese export. The upside down earthenware piece is from the Caribbean. That's a sugar mold. Very interestingly, you see that drinking gourd. What is that made out of?
That's copper.
No,
It's not
the
copper.
end of it. The end of it. The drinking gourd. I'm sorry, the drinking gourd right there. The coconut shell?
Right.
I asked you, Alvin, are there coconuts in Virginia?
No.
Where do you think that came from?
From South America.
Caribbean?
Yes.
Caribbean. And we found it in a well here in Hampton. So if you look at these artifacts, the Chinese export porcelain, the Delftware, the pieces from the Caribbean, what does it tell you about our trade?
That it was thriving.
Thriving, and it was from all over the world.
Right.
Very few things were actually made here in Virginia. Most everything was brought in. And there was part of an economic system that the English set up that only goods made in England and carried by English ships could come and go from the English colonies. So everything was set up to benefit England. Tobacco was important, but also wood was important. England, most of its wood was gone. They had a big their ships were very important to them. So wood and naval stores were also imported to England. And this area, especially the Dismal Swamp area,
Right.
was rich in wood. So this colony, this place they called Virginia, was a place for the English to find wealth and material goods that would help them at home. Most people who came here did not plan to stay. Most died in the early days. But those who did and survived did pretty well. And now, after a few decades, things began to change, and these men and women became more and more Virginians and less English. And this process would continue until the eve of the American Revolution. Alvin, you asked, is Hampton still a port?
Yes.
No, it's not, and it has not been for a long time. By the middle to late 18th century, a sandbar, what we now call the Hampton Bar, started to build up at the mouth of the Hampton River. And then, of course, the Hampton River feeds into Hampton Roads. Hampton Roads feeds into Chesapeake Bay. The Chesapeake Bay empties into the Atlantic Ocean. So when that sandbar built up, the larger ships could not get into the port. And ships got bigger. Well,
Right.
why would ships be getting bigger, do you think, during this time?
For more tobacco to be.
Exactly, Alvin, to be carrying more tobacco. Also, across Hampton Roads, the town of Norfolk was growing, and Norfolk too was a port. So as Norfolk grew and became more powerful, Hampton became less powerful because of Norfolk's rise and also because of the building up of this sandbar that prevented the large ships coming into Hampton.